Welcome back to the farm. My name's Roz, also known as Passion Flower, and you'll find me here each week talking about my farming and creative life. Well, let's start with weather because it seems to be a topic that is high on everyone's list at the moment. It is raining again. I can hear it really heavily on the shed roof right now, so you can probably hear it as well. We've had a few days of not quite as much rain. Our creek has gone back down, but there has been some damage. There is still a lot of flooding around here. The Yarra River, I believe, has not actually reached its peak height yet as it comes downstream. So Yarra Glen, which is not too far from here, has been sort of shut off in one direction. So we can't get through that way to get out of town, so to speak. So a big section of that road is still underwater. When the water finally does go down, the road's going to be in terrible condition because everywhere around here the roads are awful. The potholes are getting really big. There's lots of rough patches, and you can't see a lot of the time. It's quite like slick and water just like running across the surface, and you end up hitting potholes, which is not great for the car. So at the moment, every time we need to go sort of out anywhere, we need to go via Hillsville, which you kind of have to like remember to do because instinctively we always go the other way. Thank goodness we are still able to get out and about, because it would be terrible if all the roads were flooded and there was no way of getting anywhere. Our poor little bridge across our creek has shifted. Thank goodness it hasn't completely floated away, but it's moved a reasonable amount, enough that it's going to be quite a bit of work to get it back to where it's supposed to be, reposition it and secure it to make sure that it's going to be stable to be able to drive vehicles across. So at the moment we can't drive across into our bushland, but having said that, the paddocks are so wet that there's really not a lot you can do, or you will get bogged. But we do have to start cleaning up trees that have fallen down and checking the boundary around through there because we just haven't been able to get across there. So it's been 2 weeks since I properly spoke with you. I did pop on very briefly last week just after I got back from She's Crafty just to say hi, that I survived. But in terms of updating you on what's been happening, it's been a little while. So just after I recorded 2 weeks ago, I went to Wine Craft Cafe for the monthly wine and cheese night, which was really great. I didn't do a lot of knitting, but I caught up with lots of people. The next one isn't until December because they're away cruising in November, so I'll be looking forward to that one. Then after that, I went to Creswick for the weekend to attend the Tea Time Yarn Retreat Market, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But it was also just a really nice, brief escape. I find that because my business is here on the farm, the shed's here, I love what I do and all of the craft and you know, the dyeing and the colours and all that kind of thing, that even when I've got time off, that I do tend to like potter around on something small, like I'll do a little project, or since I was still in the build up to markets, I was still dyeing yarn or rescanning or doing something, even though I could have been just relaxing. So it was nice to actually get away to Creswick for a few days. So I drove up on the Friday night, and when I arrived, there was a nice surprise for me from my family. So that Monday, the 24th of October, put it in your diaries, just kidding, was my birthday. So when I arrived at Creswick on the Friday just before that, they had left me a little surprise of a card and some of my favourite snacks, and there was ice cream in the freezer. So that was really nice. And I spent the Friday night there, drove to tea time on the Saturday, spent Saturday night and came back on the Sunday. So I walked on the golf course. I just enjoyed sitting and doing nothing. I didn't even really knit that much. I just took some time for myself, which was really lovely. And I kind of planned to work up until that point anyway, so I wasn't feeling too stressed about it. I had kind of done as much as I felt that I was able to do. So I had given myself permission to just stop, which was really nice. I was a little bit worried about the roads around Creswick as well, in terms of flooding and everything, but it worked out really well. The weather was reasonably good that weekend and there was not a lot of rain. So thank goodness I was able to get through everywhere that I needed to go without any issues of rerouting or having to drive through floodwaters, which you shouldn't do, especially if you don't know the road. So yeah, thankfully I had no issues with that. Then when I got home on the Sunday, we went out for a really lovely dinner close by for my birthday. The food was delicious. We had a really fun time. We were a bit silly, which is just normal for my family really. And then on my birthday day, on the Monday, my mum took me to Alwyn Gardens and we saw the wisteria arch, which is magnificent. If you get a chance, you should definitely check it out. It's probably already gone by now, but put it in the diary for next season. They have these different sections of gardens with this big wisteria arch through the middle, and it was really spectacular. So it was a nice day to wander around the gardens, and then we had coffee and cake. Since then, I've now started supervising the Year 12 exams, so I am super busy at the moment. I do enjoy them. It's kind of a different mindset to what I do normally with dyeing yarn and everything. So yeah, just a few weeks of that and then I'll be back to just being here on the farm again. A little sheep update as well. They are starting to really grow back their wool. They're getting a little bit fluffy, not big like they were before they were shorn, but you can start to see that there is some length in their wool again. And I've noticed that they are not running into their shelter to hide quite so much when it gets that sort of little misty kind of wet. When they were first shorn, they definitely spent a lot more time in their shelter. Whereas now, when it's like seriously raining like it is now, they do go in. But if it's misty damp, they'll be out grazing and they don't seem to mind so much. So they've obviously got the warmth and also the lanolin to protect themselves from the water. Okay, so I'm going to try and not blather too much. I think by waiting a week before I talked about all of the markets and everything, my thoughts are a little bit more collected probably. If I had done it last week, I probably would have made absolutely no sense and it might have been really long and I just didn't have the energy to edit and put up something like that. So that's why I've waited this extra week. So first was the Tea Time Yarn Retreat Market. Another really good one of those. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do any more for the rest of this year because I have clashes with things. But I really did enjoy my time there. This time, they had a great group of retreaters. We sat and knit and chat for quite a while. Made quite a few sales. It was really interesting. I sold out of Gumball Machine. And I decided that I was going to look at colorways post that market for what my last dye session was going to be before she's Crafty. So there was a big batch of Gumball Machine that was dyed up and I'm glad that I did because it ended up selling out in the sock yarns. So it was a really good test just prior to that bigger market. I also met Danny from Half Baked Hand Dyed, which was really great. I hadn't had a chance to meet her before. And those smaller markets are really great because you really do have time to talk to each other and get to know each other a little bit. And she was going to be at She's Crafty the following week, so it was nice to have another familiar face that I could say hi to. So I did buy some yarn from her then, knowing that she was going to be at She's Crafty the following week, so that I didn't miss out on what I wanted. And I'll show you that in a little bit. So once I came back from tea time, I unpacked the car, resorted all my tubs because I'd kind of made a smaller version of my market to take there, and then I needed to expand it back out for She's Crafty. I took 4 tubs to tea time and I took 8. I think it was double the amount, probably more than double the amount actually. And as I said, I did get one more dye session in. I dyed some DK in some solid colors, which I was really happy that I got done. And then I got Gumball done. I also ended up doing some more Ocean and Blush, which didn't end up making it to She's Crafty. It was still wet, although it was probably just the humidity, but I didn't want to risk having it reskeined and be a little bit not dry. So that's okay because it will go into my next market, which I will talk about in a bit. I keep promising that I'm going to talk about things. I promise that I will. So by the Thursday, before she's crafty, I was done. I didn't do any more work on yarn stuff. It was all packed into tubs. I had all of my mini skein sets done. I had reskeined everything that I was going to reskein, and it was all ready to go. Then on Friday afternoon, I needed to pack my car, and of course it was raining, and the grass between here and the house where my car is it's a fair way, and it's also extremely wet. There was absolutely no way I was going to get my car across here without getting bogged. So I carried each tub, the table, all of my stands and everything over in the rain, one piece at a time. Yeah. I did end up getting a tip trolley from my dad that folded down, but I was worried that it would get bogged in the wet and that I would end up splashing mud all over stuff before I even got it there. I figured on the way back to unpack, it probably wouldn't matter so much, but I didn't want to get everything messed up beforehand. And I had to figure out how to pack the car, Tetris style, so that I was able to fit Deb in the front seat because she had offered to come and help me. So I had to really take my time to think about it. And if I took too much over at once, it was going to get wet sitting on the ground or with the car door open or whatever. So I was taking one box and trying to fit it in, and then taking the next one and fitting it in. So that was a whole lot of not fun. But I got it done. I got everything in without getting it all too wet. And I was able to kind of create a little tunnel through the middle of the back of the car so that I could see out. But it was quite high on both sides. But everything fit, and I didn't have to rely on Deb having something on her lap or whatever. Everything was in the back of the car, thank goodness. Coming home, I was a little more reckless. The tubs all fitted really well, but I didn't worry about sort of trying to stack things on either side so I could see. So I just put it on the front seat because she didn't come back with me. Then up early on Saturday morning, big drive-through coffee on the way. Deb volunteered to come with me to help me set up. I was a little bit stressed about the whole start setup thing. We were told there wasn't that much space to like put your car near the venue to be able to unpack, and I wasn't sure about on-street parking and the availability of like all-day free parking and all that kind of thing. In the end, it was fairly stress-free, and I think it was because Deb was there to help me. And it was just a really good setup in the end. So there was plenty of room on site to park your car and unload. And then there was free all day parking on the street. And because we were there like at 8 o'clock in the morning, there was plenty to find. I was able to get in the street where the actual venue was, a fair way up, but that was totally fine. I could just walk back. So what I did is I took everything inside, dumped it in there. Deb stayed with my stuff, and I went and parked the car and came back and set up. Set up went really well. The layout that I had practiced looked like it worked in person. I'd kind of forgotten about signage for pricing on some of the tubs at the front. So I need to come up with a different solution for that. I ended up just like taping the stickers to the front, and they were bending. So what I need to probably do is make some laminated signs or have them on like a hard backing so that they sit up nice and straight. But, you know, live and learn. That was really my first big market. So plenty of takeaways from it, and but overall it went really well. So the setup went well. I got myself settled. I checked my square. It was connecting, thank goodness. I had my float ready. I looked around quickly at the other stalls, and then time flew and the doors were open and people just started pouring in, and there were so many people, and they were saying there was queues like around the corner down the street to come in. So, which is great. So thank you so much to Pauline from Melbourne City Dye Works and Megan from Mavis Handmade. It was an incredible market. They promoted it really well, obviously, because there was so many people there. The stall holders were all really lovely and fantastic. The vibe was just really great. So it was an amazing day. If you didn't get down there, look out for, hopefully next year they do another one. They hadn't decided yet. I think on the day is a bit hard to decide if you're going to do all that again. So in reflection, we'll see how they go. But I really hope that they do, because it was a great event. Deb stayed with me for about an hour, so it gave me a chance to settle in a little bit. She did a bit of a walk around and got a bit of a feel for the other stalls, and came back to me with some feedback about that I was quite unique in what I was offering. And just looking around, you could see everyone was really unique in what they were offering, which is really fantastic. I mean, we're all selling basically yarn, but we can all cater to a different market and to different tastes, which is fantastic. Her big suggestion to me was that I should have more samples, which I am going to be working on. But apart from that, I think that my stall was pretty well set up and I was happy with it. I might want to get some height in so that I can actually display some samples. But in terms of what I had, into the amount of yarn and how I set up that yarn, I was really happy with how it looked. And it seems like the shoppers were happy too, because I had a really good day. So it was super busy all day. Probably the last 40 minutes or so it slowed down of the opening time, but apart from that it was non-stop all day. Really didn't have a chance to eat or drink anything. I was so tired by the end, but totally worth it. So pack up was a pretty quick process, just kind of threw everything back into tubs. It was much easier because there was a lot less yarn. So there was no squeezing things in. I was able to kind of spread things around, which now I still need to go through and properly like unpack and resort, because there are random things thrown into tubs where they shouldn't be, because I was literally just trying to get everything out of there and get home. And then the next day I unpacked the car, and yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. I still haven't gone through the tubs, except to pack the orders that I got online through the connection to the She's Crafty Market and the directory. So they're packed, and they're going in the post today. So what's next? Well, there is a next. The big wool show is coming up in November. It is the 12th and 13th. It is 2 full days of online shopping. There will be a live stream that goes for the 2 days, where there is interviews with a whole lot of designers and makers and all of that kind of thing. I'm not going to be participating in that part because the internet here is rubbish, so I really can't do anything live at this stage, unfortunately. But I will be participating in the online shopping part, so definitely check me out. There will be some specials and some sales going on in my shop over those 2 days, and I'm excited to be a part of it because it was a great event last year. So this is the second year that I'll be in that one. And then I've got sock classes coming up at Unwind in December, on the 3rd of December. I think that will be it for the rest of the year in terms of events. And then I've got to start planning for 2023. First to what I am wearing this week. This is Flindra by Truly Myrtle. It is a lovely big schlankety kind of shawl knitted in a DK. I made it out of a bamboo mix. I'll leave a link to a blog post that I made about experimenting with this yarn. And yeah, I just hand dyed this for myself, and I just love to put this on. It's got a little bit of weight to it, and it's also quite large, so it's a nice one to wear. Okay, my purchases, my very small amount of purchases. So my first one is from Danny from Half Baked Hand Dyed, and it is this beautiful bright self-striping ball. I needed to get this, and I got it from the Tea Time Yarn Retreat, not from the She's Crafty Market, because I know her self-striping is in high demand, and I wanted to be able to choose one that I really wanted. And I wasn't sure, as I said, how much time I was going to have to shop, so I bought that the week before. The only other thing I bought was from my booth buddy, my neighbor. during the market, and that was Laura from Owl of Athena Fiber Arts. There's her card. And this colorway is called Potion on her 80/20 sock base. And it is a beautiful, I'm not sure if it's going to show up, but it is a purple, green, oil slick kind of colorway. Really, really pretty, and something that I don't dye, and that's what I try and buy when I go to markets. Things that I really love, but that are not within my wheelhouse of what I do. So that I get some different things in my stash, because I can go and knit from my own hand-dyed yard whenever I want. And on that, when I was helping people to choose their yarn during the market, I had a lot of like variegated, tonal kind of colorways, and some other dyes. Danny and Laura, for example, all had they had solids that were beautiful, deep and really rich. And so I was saying, well, buy the variegated from me and then go and choose something from them that's going to go with it. We don't have to buy everything from the same dyer for a project. Find what works and blend them together. So that was fun to be able to recommend other people and to see the way that different colorways can go together. Okay, back to the crafting now. So not a ton of progress on anything, but I have two things that I have sort of actively worked on in the past couple of weeks. The first is my opal socks. I have put in a bright contrasting heel. This is the Shock Me colorway by Melbourne City Dye Works. And this is how they are knitting up. They just look very, very cool. I think I might do the cuff in this as well. It just brings a really fun pop to the sock. The other thing that I started only 2 days ago now is a sample for the shop, based on Deb's suggestion that that's what I should do a bit more of. And I do agree with that, because I had some samples out in some projects and they definitely appealed to people and helped to sell those colorways. So by doing a little bit more of that, it gives some ideas and it helps to see how something looks once it's worked up. So I grabbed a skein of my denim colorway, because I dyed quite a bit of this thinking that it would be appealing, but because I didn't have a sample, it was really hard, I think, for people to picture how it was going to look. So I am knitting a Flax light in the 0 to 6 month size. So it's tiny. Baby knits certainly are quick. I've already split for the sleeves and I'm probably about a third through the body already. So yeah, this is going to be a sample in my shop. I love how soft this knits up. It's got the garter on the side and it's got the stockinette. So it's a good way to show off the colorway in its entirety. I have noticed though that there's a spot here where I'm getting a lot of white. See that? How it's just white here. And when I had more stitches on the needles before I did the split for the sleeves, it was coming out pretty even. So I think what I might do is rip it back a little bit and alternate skeins. We'll kind of alternate skeins. I only am using the one, but if I pull from the other end of the ball and alternate those two ends, it'll be the same as alternating skeins, and I should be able to even out that section so that there's not that big clump of white on one side and dark on the other. So yeah, I think I will do that, and then I can talk about that as well in terms of using this yarn, in that even with one skein that you are able to alternate skeins to achieve an even color distribution in your project. I'll probably do a few other baby items because they are small, and this pattern goes all the way up to like a 5 or 6 extra large. So you then can see that it would work for an adult as well. But having a small one on your stall means you don't have to take up a whole lot of room. I'm also thinking that I will do some cowls or striped things with my mini skein sets. I just need to dye up a really nice contrast that will go through between each of the colors. Although I'm thinking I could probably use olive as the solid and then use all of the 12 flower colorways in between. So after I've finished this, I think that's probably something that I will cast on. I'm inspired and excited about sample knits at the moment. So while I am, I think I'm gonna just ride with it because I probably will lose my motivation and want to go back to knitting things for myself, which is having the socks on the needles is gonna help with that. But I think I will need some time away from samples. But if I can get a few knocked out in the next little bit, that will help while my momentum is still there and excited about markets. And thinking towards next year and how I'm going to display those items at the market. So yeah, this is the Flax Light in the denim colorway. Well, that's it for another week. I've probably been a little bit rambly and excited this one, so I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and I look forward to seeing you next week on the farm. Bye.